Welcome to Rogue One Radio. This is episode 10. I am your host, Steve Long. Charlie, my former co-host, is not with us anymore. So I have elicited the help of some other folks that are interested in talking about Star Wars. Today's main topic is going to be the final season of Clone Wars. And tonight I have on with me Megan and Katelyn. How you doing?
Hello.
Hi, good.
All right. Why don't you just give me a brief, or give the listeners a brief rundown of who you are and what you like about Star Wars.
Go for it, Megan.
Okay, basically, I'm just a big Star Wars nerd. I actually didn't get into Star Wars until a friend introduced me to it as an adult. And ever since then, yeah, I've dived as deep into Star Wars as I could. And throughout that, I've also been writing for Future of the Force, and I've enjoyed that.
Great. And that's how actually all three of us know each other, is we all write for the online Star Wars website, The Future of the Force. So, yeah. Go ahead, Katelyn.
Yeah, so I grew up on the original trilogy, and several years ago I started writing for a collaborative group called Four Strands, and then after that I got my own site, and then after that I got in touch with Phil Roberts, who's in charge of Future of the Force, and so about a year and a half ago I started writing for them, and my life has pretty much been filled with Star Wars ever since.
As it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now we're just all hoping that Star Wars Celebration goes on, so maybe we could meet each other in person.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't have a ticket, and I was on a waiting list, and then after several months I was not moving on that waiting list, so I just canceled it.
Yeah,
So,
it's not looking great.
Yeah, so maybe next year.
Yeah, although something I'm wondering is, would they postpone it till next year? And if they did, would they keep it in the same location, or would they move it to whatever scheduled one they have next?
That's a good question.
Solid question.
Guess time will tell. So, again, you are listening to Rogue One Radio. We are a Star Wars podcast. When this podcast first started out, it was kind of, it was me and Charlie just basically talking about everything there was to do with Star Wars. After our little hiatus that lasted way longer than it should have, I decided to give the show a little bit more focus. So the main topics of the episode are going to be focused on the animated universe of Star Wars as well as the comics. So anything that's a cartoon or comic, we're probably going to talk about.
Basically animated in some form.
Correct. Very good point. So, if you want to check us out on the social medias, we've got Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. All of those you can find us at Rogue #1 Radio. And to get things started, we were going to talk about a few pieces of Star Wars news or rumors that we have heard over the last week or so. The first one that we wanted to briefly talk about was the list of directors that have been confirmed for Season 2 of The Mandalorian. Great show. Really looking forward to the second season for multiple reasons. But as far as directors, we know that Jon Favreau is going to be back. Dave Filoni. Robert Rodriguez is going to be directing an episode. Carl Weathers is said to be directing an episode. Peyton Reed, the guy that directed the Ant-Man films. And also, I'm going to butcher his name, Rick Famuyiwa. So that
Good
is,
enough.
yeah, so that's the list of folks that we know are going to be directing. Absent from that list, I noticed is Deborah, who is kind of taken over the Obi-Wan series that will be coming to us sometime soon, I hope. But
Is Bryce Dallas Howard set to come back?
I didn't see her name on the list either, so that's a
Huh.
little odd. I don't know what's going on there. But so, what do you guys think of Robert Rodriguez specifically?
I think he's solid. We haven't seen a ton yet, but it's, I mean, at this point, they are throwing so much at us with some of these new series that we're going to get a lot of new names really quickly that we're either going to see them a lot or we're going to see them do one episode and nothing else.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they have thrown, in the last week, they have thrown, specifically for The Mandalorian, have thrown a lot of news and rumors our way. We have heard that Boba Fett is going to appear, as well as Captain Rex. And this one, as far as Ahsoka, I'm pretty sure that's not a rumor. I'm sure that's confirmed, is it not?
I pretty much heard that it's confirmed.
I think that's confirmed.
Yeah, I've loosely, everything that I've heard is Ahsoka is going to be in The Mandalorian, and no one's talking like it's a maybe anymore.
Right. The others are kind of a maybe, which also include, in addition to the ones I already mentioned, but Sabine Wren and Bo-Katan. So,
yeah,
go ahead.
If I can add one thing, I've heard that apparently they're not going to be spread throughout the season. Well, they're going to be spread throughout the season, but it's like they're going to have their own episodes, and that's just going to be it. So I'm especially for Ahsoka, Ahsoka and Sabine, I'm thinking that could be used as more of like a backdoor pilot into their own spin-off series as they search for Ezra.
I could see that.
Yes, and I would not hate that because we all desperately, now that the Clone Wars is over, the next one that we really need to finish is Rebels.
We certainly do.
Because let's be honest, that didn't end anything. That the end of that series wasn't an ending; it just left questions. So Dave Filoni has said that in some way we will be revisiting that storyline, and The Mandalorian would be a fantastic way to kick it off.
Yeah, and if there's some kind of live action spinoff, even better. Even better.
Yes.
So
yeah,
go ahead.
Just how far into the season do you think this episode or those episodes will happen?
Well, that's
first
a good question. I'd have to say.
Sorry to keep jumping over you.
I can't see them doing it in the first episode.
No.
But do we even know how many episodes we're going to get this season?
See, they haven't even announced that. All we know is that for sure it's not going to be delayed, according to the CEO. So as far as we know, it's still going to be out in October. But number of episodes we have not gotten anything about yet.
Correct. And I think we would get a little bit more than maybe we got a little bit last season. I would hope, because last season, your first season of a show like that is kind of your tester. How well is it going to do?
Yeah.
So I really hope that we get more episodes this season.
So do I, definitely. So speaking on some of the rumors of appearances, one in particular, I'm kind of torn on. anyone that knows me knows that I am actually a very huge Boba Fett fan. Love Boba Fett, no matter how overrated people think he is. Generally I just like the Mandalorians and the armor and the whole mythos of where he comes from. But yeah, big Boba Fett fan. So part of me is excited to see him, but another part is wishing they would leave him alone.
Yeah, I can understand that. I can definitely see that both ways because in some ways we have so many characters that have kind of become well, if we throw them in here, then it'll make the series even better.
Yeah.
And it's okay to just have a movie or a series that doesn't include someone we already know.
Right. And if they're going to make a character of that caliber show up on The Mandalorian, why would you leak that? Why wouldn't you save that like you did the child? Because nobody knew about that until the first episode aired.
No, not at all.
So why would you not just surprise everybody with a Boba Fett appearance? Everybody would be talking about that for months after that episode airs.
Yeah,
so
either that, or at least tease that it's a familiar character, but obviously until you actually see it, you don't know which.
Sure.
Right.
But they are definitely, if all of these rumors are true, they are definitely loading up the season.
Oh my goodness. We're hardly going to have an episode without somebody in it besides your main characters.
Right. I mean, you already have great characters like Cara Dune.
Yes.
And I mean, you won't have, oh my gosh, I forgot his name. The Ugnaught. Quill.
Oh, real. Yeah.
Yeah. Won't have him anymore, unfortunately. Won't have the IG droid. But,
No.
But we will have Moff Gideon with the dark saber.
Yeah,
So,
Yes.
I need to see that now.
That whole thing, you think, okay, this guy's toast, and then you see that blade pop up out of that TIE fighter, and
yeah, when I saw that thing pop out of the TIE fighter, I nearly wet myself.
we were on. My husband and I were on a plane. We downloaded the episode the day it came out, and we were watching it on the plane. And I actually yelped while we were on this plane, and people turned and looked at us like we were crazy.
Do you guys ever watch the show Parks and Recreation?
Oh yes,
I've seen bits and pieces of it.
Okay, so do you know what the stupid Ben Wyatt face is?
yes.
Okay,
yes.
I was making
think I
that
know what you're
face.
talking about.
I was making that face when I saw it. Oh.
Yeah, whereas me, I would have screamed, except my jaw was on the floor, so I couldn't.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, of the rumored appearances, who are you most excited to potentially see?
Oh,
that is a question.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just for kicks and giggles, the person that I'm most excited to see is definitely Ahsoka. The issue with that, though, is Ahsoka's been in everything, guys. And I mean, I know she is just one of the best characters Star Wars has come up with since the original trilogy. She really is.
Yeah.
And she has a solid fan base. But she doesn't have to be in everything.
I can see that, but she's never had a live action appearance.
True.
I mean, she hasn't even been mentioned in a live action setting. Like, for instance, take Harrison Dula. She has been mentioned. I think it was in the movie Rogue One.
Yes.
Yeah, it was.
Her name comes over the speakers.
Right. So, but Ahsoka hasn't even been mentioned. So she's probably due for a live action iteration. For me, strangely enough, it's not Boba Fett because I'm still torn on that appearance. But if I had to pick, I don't think I can pick one. I'm thinking the team of Sabine and Bo-Katan. I'm really excited about those two.
Yes, and getting to know Bo-Katan a little bit better in this last season of the Clone Wars was really neat.
Yeah.
Because she takes over after this, and then the Empire kind of says no and kicks her out.
Yeah. Yeah, she's a really cool character. I'm be glad to see her live action.
Yeah. And me, I just can't choose. They're all just. I'm not the biggest Boba Fett fan. I'll admit that, but for me, it's like a tie between Ahsoka, Sabine, and Rex. I just love all of them, and I want to see all of them. See how they're written in the show.
Yes.
Yeah, and the fact that I don't want to butcher his name, so I'm not even going to try. But the actor that played Django, to have him play Boba Fett and Captain Rex, as has been rumored, is just perfect. Like, why would you go any other route?
Yes. To kind of have him come back just as a legacy character, if nothing else.
Yeah. Yeah. That'll definitely be a plus for some of those non-Disney fans.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So, moving away from Mandalorian, we do have another rumor that has popped up here in the last week and a half or so, and that is the possible return of Hayden Christensen as Anakin in the Obi-Wan series. Now, this broke, at least where I read it from, it was from a site called Star Wars Unity. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think it'll happen, and do you think it's necessary?
I mean, we saw the rumors flying that he had to come back for something in Rise of Skywalker, and it ended up just being a tiny little voiceover. So him coming back can mean a lot of different things.
Yeah, that's true. That was a bit upsetting for me. I actually wanted him to show up in some respect in Rise of Skywalker. But,
if anyone was going to, it kind of would have made sense for him to. I mean, what he says in the movie is, Rey, restore balance as I once did. So if you're going to see anybody, I feel like it would be him.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the people that said about his not appearing is that neither Rey or Ben really had any strong connection to him. Rey for sure, but I mean Ben had a connection in that it's his grandfather, but I don't think he had a really strong connection in the Force to him.
Okay, yeah, I understand what you mean.
If anything, I mean, it would have been great if it would have been Anakin talking to Ben on that broken down Death Star.
Sure.
But it's just as cool that it was Han Solo.
Yeah.
But when I first saw that movie for the first time, I really thought that was going to be Anakin talking to him.
I mean, I can fully understand why.
Yeah. But it didn't happen, and it was still a good film. And but yeah, you're right in that there's any number of ways they can reinsert Hayden as Anakin in, just as a voice, a flashback maybe, anything like that. I think it would be nice to see him in some way. Although, if I was a betting man, I'd have to place my bet on it being a flashback, because the film takes place during the rise of the Empire. So, why would Anakin show up, in any, like, as a Force ghost to Obi-Wan? Wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So I'd have to think of it be, some sort of flashback. But yeah. So the next piece of news is, I'm sure everybody has heard that there's going to be a new Star Wars movie directed by. You guys want to say?
Oh,
No.
no.
Taika Waititi.
Yes.
Taika Waititi.
Yes. I am very excited about this prospect. The episode of The Mandalorian that he directed was amazing. And, the Thor Ragnarok that he did was amazing. So I just can't wait to see what he does for a full-length feature.
Yes, agreed. So that's one of the things that they're doing with Mandalorian, too, is they're bringing in people that have never done Star Wars movies, but have just done fantastic jobs telling stories in other universes. And so they're just bringing them in to see what they can do in a Star Wars setting.
Yeah. Could you imagine getting that call?
No.
I think I'd die from shock.
Yeah.
Either that or I'd just be laughing on the floor in disbelief for a good half hour.
You guys are... Who is this? Is this Dave?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's funny is, isn't that one of the things Dave said when he originally got the call for Clone Wars? Essentially, how he reacted.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah,
it's like, who is this? Who put you up to this?
Put you up to
and
this?
It wasn't until the end, until right before they were gonna hang up, and he was like, "Oh, this is for real. You're really."
That was a great show. Those making of shows are pretty neat.
Mm-hmm.
The only other news we've got coming out is regarding video games. Electronic Arts has confirmed that Jedi Fallen Order is to be the first in a new franchise. So what that tells me is that they are not going to make any more, or Star Wars is not going to have any more Battlefront games, which I'm fine with, to be honest. And I don't know if either one of you have played Jedi Fallen Order, but I really enjoyed it.
I wish I had time for video games, but unfortunately don't. But I've seen like clips and stuff from different people playing it, and it looked fun, like something I wish I could do, but...
Yeah.
And it's not surprising. Battlefront, just my personal opinion, had kind of run its course.
Mm-hmm.
So it is time for some new material. And I mean, obviously Disney has gone their own direction with the extended universe, to which the games will be a part of. So I'm not surprising that they're looking to break away from the old stuff.
Yeah, I agree. And for me, I mean, I wouldn't say I play a lot of video games, but I do play enough to where I know what's going on. For me, like the second Battlefront, the only thing that was even worthwhile about that game for me was Iden Versio. She was a really cool character. But yeah, I don't feel bad at all that they're not going to make any more Battlefront games. It's run its course. And Fallen Order is a good jumping off point, I think. But also in video game news, the Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga has a release date. It's been confirmed for an October 20th release date. So it's looking like it's going to be a pretty massive undertaking as far as the Lego Star Wars games go. From what I read, there's going to be at least 500 characters in the game. And the majority of them are going to be playable. So That's going to be an interesting game when it comes out.
Yes, it will.
Looking forward to that. Cool. Have there been any news reports that you've heard that we did not already mention? Something that may have escaped my eye?
Nope, not that I know of. And I've had my notifications going this whole time, so if we did miss something or something came up as we were talking.
Yeah.
Nothing that I can think of, because pretty much as soon as everything has hit Twitter, it's gone crazy for the past week. I mean, ever since May the 4th,
right.
Lucas has been releasing just one thing after another.
Well, and it's kind of hard to escape us, writing for a Star Wars news site. So
Yeah.
if we haven't heard about it, there's probably a problem.
Yeah.
Either that or if we haven't heard about it, it's probably not happening.
Exactly.
Or it has yet to be released.
Very true. Very true. All right. So that is all the news we have. So let's go ahead and jump into this episode's main topic. We are going to be talking about the final season, sniff, sniff, of The Clone Wars. Such a great show and a great ending to that show. Starting off, did both of you watch the cast reunion?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. What did you think of that?
Oh, it was actually a little heartbreaking to watch all of them because they talked about how close they got during filming and everything. And of course, some of them got to also do a little bit in Rebels as well. And it was fun to get to hear their perspective on some of the episodes and some of the things that went on behind the scenes that made the show even better.
Yeah. So the one thing that stood out to me on that reunion show, other than the fact that it really feels like all of those folks are like a little family unit, but the one thing that really stood out to me was the fact that Sam Witwer was really demolishing everybody in that trivia game.
No kidding.
It's like every other question they asked, it was like, oh, well, Sam Witwer knows it.
Well, actually, I've seen him on the, what's it called again? Like Schmodown or whatever it is.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I've even seen Freddie Prinze Jr. go up against him. And yeah, Sam, on that show, if I remember correctly, Sam even admitted that he's even gone head to head with Pablo Hidalgo before. So.
Well, and this is a guy that has been involved in the Star Wars universe for a while because if I remember correctly, he got his start playing. I mean, he was the son. Who am I thinking? Well, I'm thinking
Star Killer.
So I'm thinking Star Killer. Because he did that for two video games, Force Unleashed and Force Unleashed 2. So he's been involved in Star Wars in one way or another for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
But, definitely play, like you mentioned, playing the son in the Clone Wars. And then his, obviously his role as Darth Maul. And he's been a staple, especially of the animated universe for quite some time. But yeah, I just thought it was funny that he was just plowing those guys in that trivia contest.
He really was.
Yeah, so while I wasn't that surprised about that, I was just sitting back laughing, and I was like, I feel for those guys. I wouldn't be able to keep up with Sam either.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, so let's get into the final season of Clone Wars. And you folks just jump in whenever you're ready. We're going to start off just kind of giving our overall thoughts of the season and what you thought of it.
Oh my goodness. I don't even know where to begin with that.
I probably started at the beginning, then go arc by arc.
That's
Yeah.
With the Bad Batch, then Ahsoka's walk around, and then the tear your heart out Siege of Mandalore.
Yes. So, what was your favorite arc, and why was it Siege of Mandalore?
As if it could be any other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'd say mine is probably Siege of Mandalore because as much as it hurt, especially that final episode, and if you've seen that final episode, that final scene, that final shot, oh, I couldn't talk after. Especially that final shot, that was the first time in a good while where I actually had to sit back for a full half hour just to take it all in and be like, did I actually just see that? Did that just
Did that just happen? Yeah.
Yeah.
And another great thing about the Siege of Mandalore is quite possibly one of, not just in animation, but also live action, one of the best lightsaber duels ever.
Oh, that motion capture was absolutely brilliant.
Yes.
And if you have not, go and look for the side-by-side of them filming the motion capture and then what the finished animated piece looked like. Oh, it is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Well, first finish listening to this, then go watch that.
Yeah. Definitely worth the season.
Now, although I have to ask, Darth Vader hallway scene in Rogue One or Darth Maul hallway scene in this?
Oh,
Because I've heard it go back and forth between both. I've heard arguments for both sides.
I would have to go with Darth Vader.
Just because it's so iconic and it's just
it
Vader.
Is, and it's one of my favorite scenes in that movie, and it just shows like this is the first time. Like if you're watching them chronologically, this is the first time you see how much of a badass Darth Vader became after he became Darth Vader. And when I say became Darth Vader, got into the suit.
Yeah.
yeah.
Because he was Darth Vader before then, but he didn't really become the Darth Vader until he got in the suit. But it just shows how much of a badass he was. He just ripped right through like that entire ship.
Yeah. And it's interesting to watch. You will never watch the Revenge of the Sith in the same way.
No, not at all.
Yeah, and the reason I asked that was because the point I mainly heard for Darth Maul was that in his hallway scene, he didn't have any weapon. It was just pure force, him just pulling out doors, using them as shields, throwing the clones back.
That is a very good point. I could see why people would choose the other way just because of that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an awesome scene.
Yep.
It really is. It really is. I think it might be a nostalgia thing for Darth Vader.
Sure.
And the fact that Rogue One is my favorite Star Wars movie, but
Well, and one of the things that got to me was it was Maul, so things were done a little differently, and he didn't have a lightsaber. So when he wanted a communicator, instead of taking it off a dead clone, he held the guy's arm there until the door shut on his arm. Like, wow.
it wasn't very nice.
Talk about causing havoc.
Yeah.
Which is why when Rex said that's one word for it, when he was responding about Ahsoka releasing him, I was like, I agree with that. One word for it.
And their dynamic in this season, or specifically Siege of Mandalore, obviously, was incredible. The dynamic between Ahsoka and Maul. It was just like there's a team up you just never fathomed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And
Well, I never thought that they would ever successfully bring Maul back from the dead. I mean, that episode in Clone Wars where he came back, I was like, "Come on, guys!" And it's one of the best things that Disney ever did.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it seems like Dave's pretty good at that. Starting off with characters that you're really skeptical about or that you really hate, like with Ahsoka, and then building them up, till next thing you know, you're like, I love this character. I need more of them.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was. I remember when first saw her in that movie. She was kind of a little brat. But
Yeah.
then,
Oh, she annoyed the snot out of me. I wanted her dead so bad. Who is this kid?
But then you get to the final season of Clone Wars, and it's like,
oh,
at the point at which she's grown, and not as grown as she was in Rebels, but has grown up a little bit, and she was a great. I mean, it's just for her. I'm glad that they brought the season back, or brought the show back for that final season, because we really needed to see what was next for her.
Yeah.
yes.
And speaking of bringing the show back, I think this would be a good time to, if we can, briefly touch on where we were when you remember hearing about it.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Strangely, I actually didn't hear about it until a few months before Celebration Chicago. I'm not sure why I didn't hear about it before then, but and I'm sure that I read about it probably on social media. And I remember wherever I had read it, I remember going, that can't be right. Yeah, they're not going to do that. No. And then I saw it again not long before I left for Celebration Chicago. I saw it on Twitter, and I'm like, so that's real?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, once it was confirmed to me, excited is the only word I could use. Because Clone Wars was it was a great show. I love that show. And to see it back for another season, it's like, wow. And then like, what, how are they going to do it? What's it going to be about? And then seeing the trailer for the first time at Celebration, it was just like, this is going to be amazing, but what's it going to be about?
Yeah, since it wasn't until later that we learned, like, how many episodes there were going to be, how many episodes, like, how many arcs there were going to be. And then, I believe that was the last thing we learned was what the story arcs were going to be about.
Right. So the first story arc I heard about was Bad Batch, and I'm like, well, that's going to be cool. And then the only other story arc that I didn't even have to hear what it was about, but when I heard something about Mandalore, I was like, oh, I'm in. I am all in. I'm ready for this one.
Absolutely. I was once again on a plane. I don't know why that seems to always happen. We were flying from Washington, D.C. back to where I'm from in Indianapolis. And we had a layover in Atlanta, like everyone else in the world. And so we were in Atlanta, and of course I had just gotten Wi-Fi, but we went right from one plane to another. I was seriously on the ground 40 minutes, and a friend texted me and said, have you heard the news? I'm like, you're going to have to be more specific. And all he said was, just get on Twitter. So I did, and it was everywhere. Clone Wars saved, and of course you see the iconic clone mask with Ahsoka's markings on it. And just as I'm reading this, we are being seated on the plane, and I'm desperately trying to download like 3 articles so I can make sure this isn't some stupid 12-year-old's prank that they're blowing up the internet with. And by the time we landed, I had like 20 messages across 4 different platforms of people going, "Oh my gosh, have you seen this?" So that was good news during a really cruddy layover.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you think you had it bad? Wait till you learn where I was when I heard about it. So I was between jobs at the time. I was looking for one. My mom heard about a job near me teaching English as a second language to Chinese children. I'd never really taught anything formal in my life before, so that was an adventure. If I remember, I want to say it came out on a Thursday, so it was my second to last day of doing that. I was exhausted. And I want to say it was right after lunch when the Clone Wars 10-year panel was held. Mm-hmm. And I, like with everyone else, I didn't expect much to come from it. Maybe like a 10-year anniversary book or like the art of. So I had just given the class a worksheet because I was supplied with some stuff to help me out. I'd given them a worksheet because honestly, I was kind of tired at that point. I just needed to get off my feet, take a breath. And as soon as I sat down, I felt my phone vibrate because I always have it on vibrate so that if something happens, if I need it, it doesn't disturb anyone else. So since I was sitting down at a desk, I took my phone out and quickly saw that there was a trailer for Clone Wars Season 7. That was my first thing I saw. So from there, I quickly tweeted out, "Someone, please tell me this is not a prank. Please tell me this is real. I need it to be real," or something to that effect. And I swear it was only seconds later that I got confirmation back that yes, it was true. And since I was in a classroom teaching, I obviously couldn't react in any way.
Yeah.
So it's I couldn't even scream. I couldn't even let my jaw drop or anything. I just had to pretend everything was normal. So it's once it was confirmed, my finger was hovering over that button to watch the trailer, but I was I can't. But you can bet, as soon as I was done for the day, because luckily, like I said, it was after lunch. As soon as I was done for the day and everything was cleaned up, that was the first thing I did was watch that trailer, and that was when my jaw dropped. It was we're getting, and it looks this good. This is worth waiting for.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So 2 questions. One for Katelyn. Are you on a plane right now?
No.
Okay.
But I was a few hours ago. Oh, yes. During COVID, we had already planned to go down and see my husband's family. So we went and we saw them, hung out with some friends. I played D&D for only the second time in my life. It was pretty cool.
Oh, wow.
Mm.
Wow. Yeah, I've been known to do the role-playing game from time to time. Probably too much. I really like the Star Wars one, of course.
Yeah.
That's a good one. My second question is for both of you, and it's on topic, actually. It's not about airplanes.
Oh, darn.
Was the final season worth the wait?
I think I already answered this, but I'll say again, yes. Especially how they had it ordered. It's you start with something good, then you get something calming and relaxing in the middle, and then you finish up with that gut and heart punch.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good way to describe it, because it kind of started off really strong with the Bad Batch, and those characters, I just loved those characters. They were great. And then, they give you the gut punch when you find out Echo's still alive. And then, they kind of tone it down with Ahsoka's walkabout, and meeting some new friends. And then they come out strong. They end it strong with the Siege of Mandalore. It was definitely worth the wait.
Yeah, and not just with the Siege of Mandalore, but also how that arc started.
Oh, yeah.
With the Lucasfilm Limited logo, and then with the Clone Wars title card in red, and then that music. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. The music for the season was pretty amazing.
One of the things that made the music so impressive, though, was the fact that they used music from the movies as well.
Yeah.
This wasn't all new score, and it wasn't all just from what we had known from the Clone Wars. They used music from the movies. So if
Yeah.
you go back and you watch all 4 of those parts in a row, it watches like one cohesive film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say some of that toward the end of the season, how they kind of ran the show concurrent to Revenge of the Sith was really impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that actually brings up a good point. I haven't watched it yet because I haven't had the time, but I saw that someone on Twitter put together a supercut of Revenge of the Sith and Siege of Mandalore arc.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's
yes.
It's like
yes.
threesome
It's like
hours.
4.5. It's like 4.5 hours long. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's like.
But let's all be honest. Everyone's now going to go look for it. Like 4.5 hours. That's fine.
That's it? 4.5 hours?
That-
Okay. I
That, especially in lockdown, what else are you going to do?
Exactly.
Exactly.
Where am I going to go?
Which is also really good since your emotions will probably be torn to shreds after.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, with Revenge of the Sith, not as much as I was the first 2, 3, 4 times I watched it, but
But now having that gut punch from Siege of Mandalore mixed in there.
yeah, definitely. Definitely. So I want to go arc by arc for this next question. Starting with the Bad Batch, what would you give as far as a letter grade for that story arc?
I think that one is a little bit difficult to actually pinpoint because that was the first arc that we got was the Bad Batch, but we now know that actually took place between Ahsoka meeting the sisters and when we see her with Anakin and Obi-Wan for the first time. The episodes are actually out of order,
Right.
and they did that on purpose. The only issue was I knew Ahsoka was in this last season, and I just wanted to see the Siege of Mandalore so bad that I think I kind of went over the Bad Batch as, yeah, these are good episodes, but when does the point happen?
I see that. Yeah. When do we get to Ahsoka? Come on. I did enjoy the Bad Batch. I liked it. I'd say I'll give it a B.
Fair.
Yeah, that's about what I'd give it because as much as I've enjoyed the clones through the series, it's like they weren't the biggest draw for me. Or at least the biggest draw for me was more Rex for obvious reasons. Rex and Ahsoka, their relationship.
Yeah. So then that moves us into Ahsoka's walkabout. She just left the Order, and she's trying to find something to do with her life now. And I gotta say, my grade of this one is probably not being fair. I would give it a C. Not because it was a mediocre story arc, but by that time, Ahsoka finally shows up, and I'm getting kind of antsy for Siege of Mandalore.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's another one of those that I just knew what was coming and I wanted to get there.
Yeah. So it wasn't a bad story arc. I mean, I'll go watch it again. It's got some good stuff. I like the sisters. They were interesting characters. I like that we got to see another perspective, for lack of a better term, of the Pikes.
Yes.
Because, having seen them in the Solo movie, I didn't get the full story. But this one gave us a little bit more of that story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that was, it was a good story arc. It just, Yeah. By that time, it's like, okay, come on, let's get to Mandalore.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, the letter grade for the Siege of Mandalore is obviously an A. Probably an A plus, actually. I'll probably give it an A
Yeah.
plus.
Yeah.
If we're being fair, it's an A plus.
Yeah. There's just so much about that story arc that it was so much of an impact. Like Ahsoka walking through the halls and being saluted.
Oh yeah, right away.
That, and especially since you knew what was eventually going to come, that just made it hurt all the more.
Yeah, yeah. And then her walking into that room with Anakin and the painted clone troopers. So
and you can't skip over Anakin's line there. Because when she's like, they shouldn't salute me anymore, he says, loyalty is everything to the clones. And it's a dagger because you know what's going to happen.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, well, yeah, they're loyal, all right. But just, yeah, everything, like, I mean, just something as simple as Anakin and Ahsoka reuniting for that short period of time was just, it just chokes you up.
Yeah, and then especially when that short time when they were in the room together after everyone else had just left.
Yeah.
The first time they see each other, it was just them in a while, and he was like, "It's all down to business. Let's just keep it to business."
Yeah.
And he's just like, "No, I haven't seen you in so long. Let's talk."
And seeing some of those, the direct dialogue from Revenge of the Sith in that hologram right after she captures Maul, that was really, really cool.
Yeah.
So I will never watch some of those scenes in Revenge of the Sith the same way.
Right.
Yeah, and then especially when she first starts getting the hints that Order 66 was happening.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I wonder how many times she goes back in her mind and goes over that dialogue with Maul and wonders, what if I had just listened to him? Because he was right.
Yeah.
And instead she says, your vision is flawed.
Well, not only that, but think about what's going through her head all of the years between Clone Wars and Rebels. And if she had not left, would that have made a difference in Anakin's life? Would he have turned to the dark side? I don't think he would have.
I go both ways, but I really like what Dave Filoni said about he wouldn't have turned if Qui-Gon had been there.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
That was interesting, and honestly something I had never really taken the time to think a lot of. The only reason that I think that Ahsoka may not have helped as much as we think she would have is because of the Mortis arc. If you remember back in the Clone Wars, when she sees a vision of herself, her future self says, be warned, you may never see your future if you remain his student.
Yeah.
Which to me is kind of a warning.
Right. Yeah.
Like that she would have been killed in Order 66 had she stayed?
Yes.
That's a good point. Yeah. I'll tell you what, one particular scene that was harder to watch on the second watch through than it was the first way through was that final conversation between Ahsoka and Anakin, when you know that's the last time she's going to see him.
Yep.
Oh.
That hurt.
Yeah, and they aren't really saying goodbye. They're saying see you later because they're thinking that after a battle, everything's going to go back to normal. They're just going to celebrate that they finally succeeded. They finally won the war.
Yeah, and that's what makes it that much harder.
You think back to, okay, so Revenge of the Sith, he goes and he saves the Chancellor. He and Obi-Wan land, and Anakin's in a really good mood. And now you got to wonder, he's like, Dooku's dead. My mentor is safe. We are on the verge of winning this war, and Ahsoka's going to come back. Yeah. Like, that's something to add on to that moment that maybe he's excited because he thinks Ahsoka is coming back.
Yeah. Man, that's some rough stuff there.
Yeah, because tell me, was I the only one that felt like the lightsaber was going through their heart at that point? I was just kept breaking.
Yep.
For sure. Yeah, yeah. So, we've gone through all the story arcs. How about an overall letter grade?
Overall of the season,
Yeah.
I'm going to average an A-.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it a solid A.
Yeah. I was going to say about B+, A-, somewhere around there.
Fair. It's a fair grade. It was a good season. I mean, if you put it up as a whole, if you put this season up against all the other seasons of the Clone Wars, in all honesty, I could not say that's my favorite season. But it's still it was a solid season, and I'm glad we got it.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Season, I think it's 3 of the Clone Wars, might be one of my favorites just to sit down and watch for a while.
Yeah. This is definitely a conversation for another episode of the show.
Yeah.
but I really think I'm not sure if I have a favorite season. I have some favorite story arcs.
For sure.
So I'd have to go through and watch the seasons all over again, which I'm going to do anyway. But just to get an idea of if there is an actual favorite season.
And the last tidbit we got, but in the very first episode of season 7, was we discovered where the Fulcrum name came from.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Saw Gerrera.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is interesting, though, with how it clashes and how it was told in Ahsoka's novel.
Yes, where she actually came up with the name. So I am confused on whether the Ahsoka novel is now considered canon, because there are a lot of differences.
Yeah, there's a reason why if Celebration happens, that's going to be one of the questions I at least try asking Dave was, where does it now fit in?
Yeah, that's definitely something we need to know. Because they're both, technically they're both considered canon, but one of them's got to trump the other.
Yep.
For now, I think I call the Ahsoka novel more loose canon.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that. All right. So, moving on to the last segment here. One thing we always do on the show, I'm pretty sure we did this on the first episode, so it's kind of a mainstay on the show, is doing a top 5 list. And I wanted to keep it on topic. So we're going to talk about our top 5 Clone Wars characters. And when we discuss this, we decided that 3 of them had to be from the final season and that 2 of them could be from any other. So let's try to explain this one for 3 from the final season. I think what we had discussed is that these 3 could have been in previous episodes, but they didn't become our favorite until this final season. Is that fair?
Fair.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although, question, are we going in reverse order and ending with our favorite, or are we starting with our favorite and working down?
If you don't even have to do it in any particular order if you don't want to, if you think that's too difficult.
Yikes. I mean, okay, 3 from the final season. I loved Hunter from the Bad Batch.
Mm-hmm.
That was a cool character. Trying to think who a lot of we were introduced, because we were introduced to the main batch. I did like our sisters. They had really good possibilities. I wish we had gotten to delve their stories out a little bit more. But to be fair, those 2 characters were only there really to serve a purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like We probably aren't going to see those two again somewhere in an extended universe. They just are what they are.
Probably not.
Yeah, but if you could, would you like to see them in more?
I would like to see them mentioned somewhere, like in passing. They don't even have to show up, but I kind of like some of those connections every once in a while when they just kind of mention someone, like the Clone Wars season 7 when they mentioned that Saw Gerrera was Fulcrum. That was a really nice little tie-in. Little stuff like that. So maybe someday we'll hear a little mention of them somewhere.
You know what would be a good place for them to show up is if they finally decide to do a sequel to Solo.
Yes,
Ooh,
that would be a good little spot.
Yeah, I could see them working with him.
Yeah, because the campaign Make Solo 2 is going around, so it's like if that were to happen.
Yeah. And off topic, I would love to see a Solo 2. It wouldn't bother me a bit.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've got Hunter and the two sisters. So are you counting them separately or as one unit?
I actually counted them separately.
Okay, that's fine. So then you have two left.
My two from any other. That's harder. We've met a lot of people. I think somebody that could have possibly been definitely one of my favorite characters in the series if they had gotten a little more delved through would have been Quinlan Voss.
Okay.
That Jedi is fascinating, especially if you're one of those people that has read the original extended universe. Quinlan Voss had quite a storyline there. And if you've read Dark Disciple, which was one of Disney's very first new extended universe books, he's the main character. And they did a great job with him in that book. I would have loved to have seen more of him in the Clone Wars. One of my other ones was Cad Bane.
Okay, that's a good pick. That's a good pick.
I loved that bounty hunter, and I would love for him to show up in something live action.
Yeah, that'd be pretty awesome. I could see them doing that again. Solo 2. Make it happen. let's get Cad Bane in there. That'd be awesome. Shoot, for that matter, let's if we're gonna do Solo 2 and we're gonna be revisiting characters, why not Hondo?
I was just about to bring him up.
Yeah,
because he's actually on my list as one of my favorites. Which is why even for what was like an episode or two, I was happy to see him in Rebels.
Yes.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. All right. Well, that was a good 5. How about you, Megan?
Yeah. Well, like I just said, Hondo is one of them because he's just so fun. And then obviously Ahsoka, because just to have watched her progress, how she's grown from the original movie in, what was it, like 2008 until now, that was just amazing. Sure. And then Obi-Wan was one of my favorites until he got kind of pulled on Ahsoka in these last episodes.
Yeah. I see that.
So that's 3. And then throughout the Clone Wars, I loved seeing more of Padme and learning more about her and how strong she was in the Senate and how hard she fought for stuff.
Yeah.
I was genuinely disappointed that the Padme we saw in the Clone Wars is not the Padme we got in the movies.
Yeah. Agreed. And I think that was not a problem with portrayal as much as it was writing.
Mm-hmm. Totally agreed.
Yeah, because they wanted a strong female character. Just unfortunately, that didn't obviously work with what they had already done in the movies. Yeah,
because I think Natalie could have knocked that out of the park if it had been written correctly.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Is that your 5? I think we got your 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't remember if that was 4 or 5, but I'll say it was 5.
Okay. When we listen back, we'll find out if you were one off. So from the new season or from the final season, I agree with Hunter. I really liked him. So he is on my list. Also, this is a character that was in previous seasons, and I liked this character, but it didn't really hit me as being one of my favorite characters until I saw them in the final season, and that's Bo-Katan.
Yes.
Loved her. Looking back, I started going back and rewatching some of the older episodes that she was on, and I was like, man, she's just a pretty amazing character. And then going back and watching her in Rebels, just like, man, she's just amazing. I just can't wait to see her live action if that happens. So that's 2. Number 3 would be, and again, these are not in any particular order. I may come up with an order later, but not tonight. Number 3 is another one it's pretty well known, but I actually didn't care so much for the character. Well, that's not being fair. I liked the character, but it was just kind of meh until this final season, and that would be Darth Maul.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought he was okay. I was like, okay, so he's back, and he's doing his thing, and he takes over Mandalore. That's cool. But in this final season, he really just jumped out at me as a pretty amazing character.
Agreed.
Yeah.
They've done a really great job developing him.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And actually, if I didn't hit 5, I'd have to say he would definitely be on my list.
Yeah.
Because, again, in that last arc, the Siege of Mandalore, just how crazy it got, because especially when you use the Force to crush the hyperdrive.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. That was crazy.
Someone's been practicing.
And then, I mean, just the whole idea that he knew what was going on. He sensed it.
Mm-hmm.
He's like,
and he didn't just sense it; he spelled it out.
Yeah, he's like,
yeah.
It's like he's going to take over. There ain't going to be a republic anymore, and it's just like, wow, this guy just shows you how in tune with his senses he was, even after all the crap he went through. Getting chopped in half, and and everything else. So that's 3. No, that's 4. So wait a minute. Is that 3 or 4? No, that's 3. That's 3.
That's 3.
I'm losing my train of thought. Okay. So number 4, I'm saving my absolute favorite for last. So I'm trying to decide who I want to put in my number 4 spot. Honestly, I think I'm going to have to agree with the decision to put Hondo in the top 5. He's just a fun character. He's kind of annoying, but that's part of his charm. and just like you had said, seeing him in Rebels, that was pretty exciting to see him try to connect with Ezra.
Yeah, that even when Ezra betrays him, he's like, "Well, I expected it. I pretty much planned for it." Yeah.
So yeah, I'd have to say Hondo's. And I mean, okay, if we're being all things being equal and being honest, a lot of the characters that were in the movies would overpower them as favorite characters, but I'm trying to keep it specific to Clone Wars specific characters, well, with the exception of Darth Maul. So, but you didn't get much Darth Maul in the movies anyway.
No, not really.
No. So number 5, who is actually not just in Clone Wars, but just in Star Wars specifically, one of my favorite characters. And this And this person has actually been in a movie, but got their start in Clone Wars, and also had some appearances in Rebels. And
you're really building it up.
And that character is Saw Gerrera.
Yes.
Love Saw Gerrera. Love Saw Gerrera. Loved him in Clone Wars, loved him in Rebels, loved him in Rogue One, loved him in Catalyst, loved him in Rebel Rising. Just amazing. Love that character.
Yes. He was one of those characters that has been in several mediums now, and no apologies.
Yeah.
They took some big liberties with him with Rogue One, but without having so much of the in between, it's hard to judge a character.
Yeah. I just like, after seeing him in Rogue One, after having seen him in Clone Wars and whatnot, but I really dug into learning more about this group he had put together, and so that he was in the rebellion, but he was too extreme, so they kicked him out. And it's like, oh my gosh, they kicked him out of the rebellion.
Yeah,
it's like when you're too much, even for the rebellion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what I find very interesting about that is they say he's too extreme for the rebellion, but yet in Rogue One, you see how clearly they are extremists in their own right.
Yeah.
Go kill Galen Erso. Okay, that's not something you would think this light-hearted organization would do. So you see him, you just kill him. Okay, that's a little extreme.
Yeah, solid point. Solid point, it really is.
For Saw Gerrera to be too extreme, man. But yeah,
it was neat between all the originals and then Rogue One. We do kind of get to see how the rebellion evolves a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So there's my top 5, and that is our top 5 list for the week. I haven't decided what the next episode is going to be, so I don't know what the top 5 for the next episode will be. But I'll be sure that once I decide what the episode's going to be about, I will announce that. And come to think of it, I don't even think I announced what this episode's going to be about on social media. No, well, I guess I'll get a surprise. But yeah, once I figure out what the topic is going to be, I will post on social media what the top 5 lists for next week will be. And the reason I post that is I like to get like the people who listen to the show. I like to get their input, and I wanted to start like giving listeners ideas of their top 5 list too, but we just never got around to doing that. So hopefully we'll be able to kick that off again. Before we close things up, I wanted to give a few shout outs to some other Star Wars podcasts that we enjoy and listen to frequently. First one being the Cantina Cast, Fangirls Going Rogue, Force Toast, the Galactic Podcast, Star Wars Splash Page, Star Wars Explained, Tatooine Sons, and Nerf Herder Podcast. And if there's any others that you would like to shout out, go ahead and shout them out.
One that I just discovered just a few days ago is the University of Coruscant. And each episode is only about 15 to 16 minutes long, but it delves into a lot of tech and a lot of Star Wars history, but does it in a really fun and funny way, honestly. And guy that runs it is a really solid guy. It's a very enjoyable podcast.
University of, I'm all on board. Anything that gives, so as much of a Star Wars geek as I am also quite the history geek. So that would definitely be right up my alley. I like that one. You were saying that was only 15 minutes long. There's another one, and I apologize for the creator of this podcast that I don't remember the name of the podcast, but it's a guy that does like 7 minutes at a time. Each episode is like 7 minutes. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember the name of it. You know what? I think I may have it. I'm pretty sure. Let me pull up my Spotify because I'm pretty sure that I have it on my follow list. And just give me a second here. Jump to Light Speed.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, so this guy does, he calls it a bite-sized podcast.
Ooh, I love it. I love it.
So, you don't have a whole lot of time to listen to podcasts. Check that one out. So, yeah, those are some podcasts that we listen to. If you have your own Star Wars podcast and would like us to give you a shout out on the show, send me a message on Twitter. You can send it to the Rogue One Radio at Rogue1 Radio, or you can send it directly to me at my own Twitter page, and it's Otter OTTER 272. And so that wraps things up for this episode.
Actually, if I can jump in really quick, I'm just to correct you on one thing on the last podcast that you shouted out. It's not Nerf Herder; it's actually Nerd Herder podcast.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah,
that was me reading. That was me reading it wrong. I have my list here, and must be dyslexic.
Yeah, I just bring them up because they're a really fun husband and wife duo.
Yeah,
they're just really fun to listen to.
They really are.
Oh, we just got a breaking update from Star Wars stuff. Katie Sackhoff has been cast as Bo-Katan Kryze in The Mandalorian Season 2.
So this is this is a confirmation.
Yes, this is coming from Star Wars stuff, and honestly, they're usually right.
Oh my gosh.
Nice.
Okay,
so we have a cast. So
if she is going to show up, the rumor that Sabine is going to appear there has to be some validity to that as well.
I would think so. Sabine's with Ahsoka at this point.
Oh my gosh. You know what's giving me goosebumps right now? Is Bo-Katan fighting Moff Gideon.
Oh
my God. Oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I have literal goosebumps right now. I need
that's amazing. That's an amazing thought.
I want that Darksaber back. Oh my God.
Oh.
All right. So you've heard it here on Rogue One Radio. it's confirmed.
I think it's safe to say that none of us can wait until then.
Oh no. October is way too far away.
Oh, beyond.
Awesome. So where can our listeners see you on the social medias if you want to give that information out?
So you can find me on Twitter at Force Knowledge, and you can also find me at Instagram on the same name, capital FORCE, capital KNOWLEDG.
Awesome.
And then you can find me on Twitter at either at FAAPOV, at From an Autistic Point of View, because I'm a high functioning autistic, and I also have started my own blog. And you can also find me on Twitter at my more personal Twitter at Finding Her Spot, all one word.
Very cool. All right. Well, that wraps us up. Katelyn and Megan, I am glad that you came on the show. Thank you very much for guesting with me. I didn't know how I was going to do this without a co-host. And it seems I don't have to because I've got friends like you that'll help me get through this, sludge through this thing.
Yes, if you are ever looking for someone to host on a podcast, please go to futureoftheforce.com. Check out everybody. I'm sure there will be someone that will be more than willing to talk to you.
Oh, absolutely. Because, who doesn't want to talk about Star Wars?
Exactly.
Great. Well, thanks for coming.
Yeah,
absolutely.
All right. So that was episode 10 of Rogue One Radio, signing off. And come back next time. Bye.
Bye.